They said my house was an eyesore and needed to burn. 3 months later, they found out I was the federal judge who'd spent 2 decades sending crooks to prison, and that's when the fun really started. Now I'm standing in what's left of my living room surrounded by the stink of wet ash and regret, and you know what? The irony's so thick you could cut it with a stick. Glass crunches under my boots. The wind sneaks through empty log beams, and if you listen, you can just about hear the ghosts of mountain sunrises I'll never see again. Security footage doesn't lie. There's the HOA president herself, Patricia Blackwood, directing what she called a controlled burn for fire safety. Funny thing about fire safety, my house passed every inspection. Patricia and her crew never bothered to ask what I did before I retired, and that was their first mistake. So let's back up about 6 months. My name's Samuel Riverside. Sam, to anyone who cares, and after 20 years on the federal bench, I thought I'd earned a little peace retirement in my granddad's 40-acre slice of Pinarest Valley, Colorado, living out my days in flannel shirts instead of black robes. That land had been in my family since before anyone even thought up HOAs, back when neighbors waved instead of filed complaints. I spent 2 years restoring Grandpa's old cabin solar panels on the roof, rainwater barrels, and organic garden out back. Real sweat, real work, real dreams. That's when Patricia Blackwood swept in 52 blonde highlights, a voice like broken glass, and the relentless energy of someone fresh off a nasty divorce. She rolled into Pinarest Valley and within months was queen of the HOA, lording it over every unsightly mailbox and stray dandelion. First time I met her, she eyed my property like a vulture sizing up roadkill, told me I needed to discuss compliance issues. I just smiled and said, "Ma'am, my land predates your HOA by decades. Want to see the paperwork?" Her smile cracked for half a second, but she wasn't the type to back down. What I didn't realize then was that Trish had a plan, and it had nothing to do with neighborhood harmony. See, her real estate firm just inked a deal with some big development group and my land prime real estate for million-dollar homes. Only problem was me. Suddenly, anonymous complaints started piling up, septic violations, zoning this code that county inspectors came out so often I considered charging them rent. Everyone left scratching their heads. Everything was legal, but Trish didn't care about facts. One morning, surveyor's stakes popped up near my property line, and that's when I knew this was more than some petty HOA feud. 20 years putting criminals behind bars had trained me to spot predators, and Patricia Blackwood was on the hunt. She made her first big move at my grandson's birthday, kids running wild burgers, smoking, and here comes a process server looking embarrassed as 8-year-old Tommy stared him down. Lawsuit for water rights violations. Fat stack of papers from a lawyer named Winston Cartwright III, the kind of guy who puts his Roman numerals on his business card. Never mind that our wells were all independent and my rain barrels actually helped the water table. Trish just wanted headlines. Next morning, local news was running with reclusive landowner hoards water. Trish could spin a story faster than I could say slander. But she didn't know I'd spent my life unraveling bigger schemes than hers. A couple phone calls, and I had her state record, 3 ethics violations, developer connections, suspicious HOA finances. I filed a countersuit for harassment and demanded a forensic audit of HOA funds. Got the case assigned to a real judge, Martinez, no-nonsense type. The look on Cartwright's face when he realized I wasn't just some hayseed was almost worth the trouble. My hydrogeologist's report demolished their case. Judge threw it out, awarded me full legal fees, and Trish stormed out so fast her heels left black marks in the parking lot. That should have been it. But Trish escalated my electricity, accidentally cut driveway blocked by roadwork that never seemed to end, EPA showing up because of an anonymous tip about my solar panels. The EPA guy, Bradley Winters, turned out to be Trish's brother-in-law. Nepotism plain as day. That's when I started documenting everything. Security cameras caught the HOA crew cutting my lines at 2 a.m. Records showed Trish ordered roadwork without permits and that EPA complaint filed from her brother-in-law's personal email. I bundled it all up and handed it to Miranda Torres, an investigative reporter hungry for a good story. Channel 7 blew the lid off HOA Gone Rogue, they called it. Turns out Trish had been bullying neighbors for years. Fines for vegetable gardens, threats over mailbox colors, even tried to foreclose on an old lady. After that, HOA meetings turned into war zones. Trish tried to rewrite the bylaws to force me in, waving a petition filled with fake signatures. Nice try, but I'd seen more convincing forgeries from middle schoolers. She called me an anti-government extremist in front of everyone, her voice shaking, finger pointing, full meltdown. Then the rumors started: flyers, phone calls to my daughter's law office, graffiti on my fence. Old-timers stuck by me. Newer folks avoided eye contact. The whole valley was split, but I decided to fight fire with fire. I called in favors friends at the FBI, traced harassment calls straight to Trish's office. I filed formal complaints against her brother-in-law. But the secret weapon, Margaret Taylor, retired librarian who'd quietly archived every HOA document and secretly recorded meetings for a year. She brought me boxes full of evidence, minutes, charters, and hours of Trish threatening anyone who crossed her. I started hosting barbecues, real ones, with neighbors talking and laughing instead of glaring and hiding. The more we talked, the more stories came out: fines, threats, double charges. We built a coalition. Trish, desperate, tried to bribe me envelopes stuffed with $100,000 in crisp bills. I declined. Security cameras caught every second, including her threat to ruin me. Then came the final act. She paid a washed-up contractor named Danny Voss to burn my house down. Only Danny's girlfriend tipped off the police. That night, the fire department and FBI watched from the tree line while Danny, full of himself, set the blaze that destroyed everything I'd built except my resolve. Trish tried blaming me on TV the next morning, but nobody was buying it anymore. By then, Miranda had released the recordings, documents, and financial audits showing Trish's fraud, kickbacks, and discrimination against elderly and minority families. The FBI and IRS raided her office. The city councilman she'd bribed got hauled off. Her brother-in-law lost his job, and the developer's empire collapsed. At the emergency town hall, I finally told everyone who I was. The gasp when I said federal judge was almost theatrical. I laid out the case: fraud, arson, conspiracy, discrimination. Trish lost it, screaming about me being the real criminal as she was led away by security. The U.S. attorney announced a 47-count indictment. Patricia Blackwood got 15 years. Her cronies got theirs, and our community started to heal. We rebuilt not just my house, but trust. Turned the settlement into a scholarship fund, started a neighborhood garden, held the first real potluck anyone could remember. Miranda and I, well, we built something too. She won a Pulitzer for her reporting. We got married, and I discovered that retirement is a whole lot better with someone who gets why you never back down from a fight for what's right. Pinehurst Valley became a symbol of how neighbors, when they stand up together, can take down the worst kind of petty tyranny. State laws changed. Other HOAs got the message. My book, When Good Neighbors Go Bad, sparked conversations everywhere. Congress even invited me to testify. Now every morning, coffee in hand, I look out over a community that's stronger than any HOA rulebook. My only regret is I didn't throw that first barbecue sooner. So what about you? Ever had an HOA war or a neighbor cross a line too far? Drop your story below, hit subscribe, and let's keep this fight for fairness going. Because justice isn't just a courtroom word, it's a promise neighbors make to each other every single day. And as for me, well, I just got a letter from a homeowner in Texas fighting over a $50 fine. Looks like this judge is about to come out of retirement one more time.